Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Welcome. Today we're diving into dialogue editing and cleaning up ASMR recordings with RX. And I want to kick things off by thanking Jayni from Journey with Jayni Hypnotherapy YouTube channel. She generously shared one of her raw recordings for this video, which makes it possible to show you real world audio and walk you through the editing process step by step. Now here's the thing. Working with audio like this can feel a little vulnerable. It's what I like to call a sonic bathroom selfie. Everything is laid bare, every little imperfection, every tiny detail and flaw, the quirks, all of it. And that's why I'm really thankful for her bravery in allowing me to use this file. It means I can show you what real unpolished ASMR audio sounds like before we start cleaning it up. So with that said, let's dive in and take a closer look at what we're working with. So this is the audio. This is what it looks like anyway. If you're new to RX, you've got the waveform view and spectrogram view here. And I'll just play some audio so that you can get acquainted with the kind of stuff we're going to be working with.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned. Good. Now I'd like you to just look into my eyes and notice that when I blink, you blink. That your eyelids are becoming heavier and heavier. That's right.
Okay, I think you get the picture. Okay, so now that you have a feel for what's going on, let's talk about what not to do. Let's work from the negative when you're editing ASMR audio. And honestly, this applies to pretty much any kind of recorded voice. The temptation, I think, for those out there is that they're going to load up RX and maybe go straight for something like Repair Assistant. And don't get me wrong, I worked for iZotope for like 8 years. Repair Assistant is a powerful tool. It's quick, it's pretty smart, and it can save you a lot of time, but only if you know what your audio actually needs. The thing is, Repair Assistant is listening for a bunch of problems at once. Sometimes it makes the right call, but other times it gives you a false positive. It fixes something that doesn't need fixing, or it'll overprocess parts of the audio that you might want to keep. One example of this is mouth clicks. So the ASMR community loves those things, even if they're brutal for most other people to listen to. And if you're not careful and you don't know what you're doing, Repair Assistant is going to remove them, or at least try to remove them completely. So what I don't recommend is this: grabbing a chunk of audio, hitting Repair Assistant, pressing that learn button, and then just rendering the results without listening critically. Okay, with all that set up, let's go into RX. I'll show you exactly what not to do with Repair Assistant. Okay, so this is what I mean when I say Repair Assistant can really take things too far if you're not careful. Let's select a chunk of audio like this. We'll go to Repair Assistant, and now we'll make sure that we reset settings and choose voice. Let's press learn. What it's doing now is it's listening to the audio to identify a number of issues. And now we can preview or just press render. Let's do render. So here's the before.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned. Good. Now I'd like you to just look into my eyes and notice that when I blink, you blink. That your eyelids are becoming heavier and heavier. That's right.
And here's the after with a generic pass of Repair Assistant based on a blind learn and render.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned. Good. Now I'd like you to just look into my eyes and notice that when I blink, you blink. That your eyelids are becoming heavier and heavier. That's right.
So I don't even have to go back to the before to kind of show you that what's happening here is we're getting over processed, right? Especially this section here. She just sounds underwater from the intense amount of what I assume is denoising and perhaps even declipping, where there is No declipping needed.
I'd like you to just look into my eyes.
Before,
I'd like you to just look into my eyes.
after.
I'd like you to just look into my eyes.
The other thing that's missing now are all those mouth clicks. Now, Repair Assistant was smart enough to identify them and treat them, but ASMR, that community loves mouth clicks. Those are gone now. So listen to the beginning here to hear them in.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned.
After.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned.
They're gone. And that's a problem. So this is why it can be really tempting, but also kind of dangerous to just blindly jump into Repair Assistant if you don't really know what you're doing or you're looking for. Okay, I want to keep table setting and talk about what not to do. So dialogue isolate. Here's another example of what not to do, in my opinion, and that's leaning too heavily on dialogue isolate. Dialogue isolate is an incredible tool. It can very cleanly separate the voice from the background noise, and at first, it feels super impressive. You hit a button and the voice just jumps out of the mix. But here's the problem. If you crank this setting all the way up to say 100% and you just hit render, you'll notice something strange happen. It's not only removing the noise, it can actually remove parts of words, and that's because dialogue isolate is making decisions about what it thinks is the signal versus what it thinks is the noise. And in really intimate recordings like ASMR, where the voice has many soft kind of transients and delicate textures, sometimes the plugin mislabels those little details as noise and they just vanish. So while it can actually be a lifesaver, you don't want to just drop it on a file and call it a day. If you do use dialogue isolate, always double check the results. Listen carefully to make sure that you're not losing words or pulling too much of the character out of the performance. Subtlety is key here. So let's run it and listen closely, and I think you're going to hear the difference right away of what I've been talking about. So as I mentioned, dialogue isolate, massively powerful tool. Let's say that you wanted to do an entire audio file and you wanted to remove all the noise and just keep that vocal. You bring this all the way down, and you might even increase the sensitivity here to 10 to really nail the processing. I'll press render. Let's take a listen.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned. Good. Now I'd like you to just look into my eyes and notice that when I blink, you blink.
So the mouth clicks are intact, so good job, dialogue isolate. However, it chewed up a word completely right here. You can hear the ghost of it still there. Here's before.
Good.
Here's after.
Good.
Doesn't sound like the word good anymore. And this is why it's really, really important to not go crazy with dialogue isolate just because you think it's what you need. It left the mouth clicks in there. That's awesome, but it's destroying words. And also it's stripping away so much of the background that it can become kind of eerie that this voice is just floating around in the void. Now, you could obviously bring things to a less intense setting, but I think most people would just love to slam this down, hit render, and call it a day. And that can be problematic for the reasons that I showed you. All right, so we've established the wrong way to go about things. Let's talk about the helpful side, what to actually do when you're tackling a problem in RX for ASMR. And here is the recommended mindset. Think of yourself like a doctor, and the audio is the patient. If someone came into your office, you wouldn't immediately give them a shot of penicillin and a vaccine and send them home. That would be insane. Instead, you would ask questions, you would listen, you try to figure out the symptoms, and then prescribe the right treatment. And the same is true of RX. Every tool in this app is like a different prescription, and the key is knowing which one to apply and how much of it and when. So let's remember who we're editing for here, the ASMR community. They love the intimacy of little mouth sounds, the soft texture of whispers, the closeness of the recording. But what they don't love are stuff like harsh background noise, a dog barking in the distance, etc. So our job is to carefully separate what's desirable from what's distracting. And that means using our ears first before reaching for any module, listening critically, understanding the needs of the track, and only then reaching into RX for the right solution. So let's roll up our sleeves and put this theory into action with the track. And I'll show you exactly how I would listen and then take care of things I hear. All right, so sticking with our doctor-patient analogy, let's listen to the patient and then diagnose the problem. Let's have another listen now with an open mind.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned. Good.
So one of the first things that I'm hearing and seeing are these lines right here, okay, that run from the top to the bottom of the screen. And this represents a hum or a kind of buzz. It's ambient, it's static, and in my view, it needs to be dealt with. So what I'm going to do is select this little patch. What you can do actually is choose one little moment here before generalizing the processing to the entire file, going to dehum, and then you can learn. Actually, I'll zero this out so it looks more like what you might see. So default, I'll go to learn. I'll bring the sensitivity up and hit render. And as you can see, before, after, it has knocked out that hum. So I can make a selection with confidence and hit render, knowing that we're going to get rid of most of that hum. If I want to be superstitious about it, I'll bring the bands all the way up. There we go. Before, after. So play it before.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned.
And after.
Good.
Before.
Now I'd like you to just look into my eyes
After.
and notice that when I blink, you blink.
This stuff might seem kind of subtle at this stage, but this audio is going to be compressed. It's going to be brought up in level, and the hum might be more noticeable. And a lot of people are going to listen to this stuff on headphones because they get the kind of maximum effect. So that hum is going to come up, and it should be dealt with. Now, the next thing I noticed is a bit of a noise floor. It's not super loud on its own, but here's the issue. Once we start adding compression, limiting, any kind of leveling to bring up the body of the performance and get it ready for YouTube, that noise is going to come up too. So before we move forward, I want to make sure the background noise stays where it belongs, in the background. Now, as you saw earlier, I'm not going to use Dialog Isolate for this. It's a formidable tool, but in this particular file, it actually removed part of a word, and for me, that's one strike too many. So instead, I'm going to reach for one of the classics, voice denoise. This module was born out of the older spectral denoise, but it's been specifically optimized for the voice. It gives us just enough control to reduce the noise without stripping away the character of the recording, in my opinion. So watch what happens when we bring denoise in. You'll hear the background settle, I think, pretty naturally. Now, every room has a noise floor. It's common, it's natural, but I want to clean this one up so that we can really bring Jayni's vocal to the center. And as I showed earlier, I don't want to use Dialog Isolate. Yes, you can be subtle with it, but it's really a tool that's kind of like a bazooka. You know, it's going to blast everything away and just leave the vocal there at the risk of maybe messing with the integrity of the vocal. So instead, I'm not going to use a bazooka or a rocket launcher. I'm going to use a deer rifle in the form of voice denoise. And that works like this. What you want to do is select a little patch here. Press learn. Make sure you're optimized for dialogue. You can choose the filter type. I like gentle. And then go back here and preview things.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned.
You can hit bypass to hear what it sounds like before.
Good. Now I'd like you to just look into my eyes and notice that when I blink, you blink.
Perfect. So I will now select my patch and hit render. Before.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported
After.
and well aligned. Good.
And you see we've used a more gentle tool for voice denoising, and we have retained that good word.
Good.
Before.
Good. Good.
Awesome. we're doing no harm. If I could beat this doctor metaphor to death here. Okay, so we've dealt with hum, we've dealt with noise. Now, what about those little mouth clicks? Even though they might make some people, including me and Jayni, the presenter, kind of shudder when they hear them, we're going to leave them in because the ASMR community loves them. Those subtle little clicks, they're part of the experience, believe it or not. And again, we got to think of our audience in doctor terms, our patient. So here's what doesn't complement the ASMR experience: strident S sounds. Now, Jayni is just one of those people who, for better or for worse, has a naturally sibilant tone, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just how her voice works. No microphone position or mic technique is going to completely erase that. And frankly, I would rather have her focus on her delivery and give a great performance and not worry about the S's. So that's where RX comes in. Now, because those S's can be really piercing, if we leave them untouched, and then later, like I said, add compression, they're going to jump out even harder. So kudos to you if you noticed those sharp S's earlier and were wondering if I would, deal with them. You've caught that, you've got really good ears, and you should pat yourself on the back. Okay, there's a neat trick in RX that controls the sharp S's. Let's go in and listen closely to how it smooths them out. All right, sibilance. In ASMR, mouth clicks, all that stuff is fine, but sibilance, that does not get to pass. So a couple different ways to deal with it. Dealing with sibilance is hard. It's easy to just throw a tool there, get rid of them. But if you listen closely, the vocal now sounds like it has a lisp or something, or every time there's an S, the whole audio dips. So you got to be careful. There's a couple different ways to tackle S's in RX. If you're getting paid a lot of money, you can go down here to Instant Process. I choose the brush tool. And then you can go over here to Spectral Repair, check your little settings on Attenuate, and just paint away the S sounds, which look like this in the spectrogram view. They're a little harder to see if you're in the waveform view or even halfway in. I like to go all the way. And now I can just paint them out like that, okay? So here's before.
That everything is well supported.
After.
Everything is well supported.
So the S's are still there, but they're way less strident.
Everything is well supported. Everything is well supported.
Now, you would have to go through the entire file and do all the hotspots like this, which I have done. So if you're not getting paid a buttload of money, what you would do instead is use a de-esser. And RX has a really, really, really good one. So we'll find it over here, de-ess. Now, you've got classic and spectral mode. I personally way prefer the spectral mode because I find that I can get very specific about how I want the S's to sound after the processing. If we were to leave things on classic mode, a lot of these other areas get grayed out, and I'll just kind of default things back here. So let's say we left it where it is here, 2500 minus 12. Let's preview that.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported and well aligned.
Go over here.
Now I'd like you to just look into my...
So I'm hearing some ducking, and I'm also hearing that the sibilance is still pretty present.
Everything is well supported.
And we could bring this threshold down more, but that would be kind of funky.
Or that everything is well supported.
Now it's ducking almost, which is no good.
Now I'd like you to just look into...
It sounds kind of funny. It sounds like we went back to Repair Assistant. So instead, I'll go to Spectral, and maybe I'll play with my cutoff frequency.
Make sure that everything is well supported.
I think 25 is maybe a bit too low. So let's bring it to 3.
That everything is well supported.
So we're getting some reduction. That's good, but it still sounds like it did before.
Make sure that everything is well supported.
That's a little better. Now here's a trick. I like to go spectral shaping all the way up when I have a very sibilant vocal like this. What it's going to do is tilt the processed S sound toward a brown, pink, or white noise profile. And I find that this really helps to soften the S's on an especially sibilant vocalist like Jayni happens to be.
Let's make sure that everything is well supported.
So if I bring spectral shaping back to 50,
everything is well supported.
Not bad, but still a little sharp. We're still hearing that whistle in the S. Or is it 100?
That everything is well supported.
It's a little better. I could bring it to a white profile to see if that helps to bring the whistle down a bit.
I'd like you to just look into my eyes. Thing is well supported.
To me, that sounds great. We could do brown just because we're playing around.
Everything is well supported.
I'm going to leave things on pink, and I'm going to bring this selection here. Oops, I still have instant process. And I'll do a render. All right, so here's before.
Make sure that everything is well supported.
After.
Make sure that everything is well supported.
Once again, it's subtle. Listen with some good headphones. Before.
Sure that everything is well supported.
After.
Sure that everything is well supported.
And one over here just for good measure. Before.
To just look into my eyes.
After.
You to just look into my eyes.
To me, that is a significant improvement, especially if you're going to listen over headphones. You don't have that piercing whistle anymore, and her S's still sound very human. And it's with this spectral mode with some shaping here to make it 100% pink profile that we can get the best of both worlds. So that is how I would go about really dealing with a tricky ASMR vocal. Not too tricky, but some hum, some background noise, some sibilance. We want to leave the mouth clicks alone, and we want to make all this stuff pretty turnkey. So you could throw everything into a module, module chain rather. Save all your settings, and then run this every time you get the same, track from the same performer. If you're having to edit things, but hopefully this gives you some ideas on how to navigate the challenge of cleaning up an ASMR piece of audio. Okay, so hopefully if you're dealing with a sibilant vocal, whether it's sung or spoken, the RxDS techniques I showed you will help you control those S's. Not completely remove them, but make them more palatable for the listener. Because there's nothing worse than listening to music or an audiobook or an ASMR track and getting pulled out of that experience every time there's a harsh S that slices through the mix. So you might be wondering, what about leveling, compression? What about keeping the performance smooth at a consistent level? Well, here's the thing. There are tons of plugins out there for dynamics control, but that's not really what RX is built for. Compression and limiting are tools for shaping dynamics, not repairing audio. And especially in ASMR, you have to be careful. The quiet parts are just as important as the loud parts. If you overcompress, you risk squashing all the life out of the performance. Everything becomes flat and in your face, which is pretty much the exact opposite of what ASMR is supposed to feel like. So if you're going to use compression or leveling, just make sure you really understand your attack, release, sustain controls and use them with respect for the material. You want to preserve those peaks and valleys. That's the heart of the ASMR journey, especially in hypnotherapy style presentations. So while RX can tackle some compression stuff, there's loudness control, there's the leveler, there's dialogue level, I think. I'm not going to focus on that in this video, but I just want to say you can do some leveling in RX, but what the purpose is today is just to show you how to tackle problems like strident S's and those kind of things. Okay, and with that, I want to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching, and a massive thanks to Jayni for letting me use her audio as real-world examples. I really appreciate her generosity. If you've got audio problems you would like to see tackled, or if you want to learn more about using RX, let me know in the comments. I know RX isn't the most sexy kind of, application on the internet, but I'll try to cover it. It's probably my second favorite DAW at this point. Thanks for being here, and I will see you in my next video.